To all our viewers around the world, welcome to this Master's Online Open Day session for the Master Program Bio-Pharmaceutical Sciences at Leiden University. My name is Victor Vanderst and I'm the moderator of this session. Before we start off, let me briefly tell you what the program is of this session today. First off, we're going to introduce our speakers, our guests today. Then we're going to interview them. Our program director, Miranda van Eck for the Master's Program, a student of ours, Tamara, and a graduate, Marlot. They're going to give some more information about the program and they're going to share their experiences to give you the best information on how to select your study program. Finally, we're going to have a live Q&A session where we're going to answer your questions. Please note, you can ask all your questions you like during the whole duration of the session by using the chat box function at the side of your screen. So, let's start off. Miranda, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much. Well, my name is Miranda van Eck. I'm the program director of the Master Program Bio-Pharmaceutical Sciences. And in short, we always call it BPS. So in the slide, you also see BPS. So that stands for Bio-Pharmaceutical Sciences. And as a program director, I'm responsible for the organization and the quality of the education at our program. I'm currently also Deputy Scientific Director of the Leiden Academic Center for Drug Research, and that's actually the institute that provides the BPS program. I'm professor in cardiovascular and metabolic therapeutics at Leiden University, and that's already since 2012, but I've been here way longer. And I actually came in 1990, I came to Leiden and have studied biopharmaceutical sciences myself. And I liked it very much in Leiden, so I actually stayed here all the time. I did my PhD training at the Division of Biotherapeutics of the LSCDR, but I'm now working at another division at the same institute, and that's the Division of Systems Pharmacology and Pharmacy. And well, if I'm not teaching, I like to do a lot of things, but number one, I must say, is my family life. I really love my kids, and it's nice to be able to combine that rather easily with a life in science. And amongst that, I also like traveling, and I very much like watching Formula One, architecture, so a lot of other things as well.
Cool. Thank you, Miranda. Tamara, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Tamara, and I'm a current master student of the BPS master. Before this, I also did my bachelor in biopharmaceutical sciences here at Leiden. During the master, in my first year, I did my research project at the Systems Pharmacology and Pharmacy division. And for my second year, I decided to do, well, two specializations. First off, the Science, Communication and Society one, followed by also the research one. And for my research project, I hope to go abroad to Copenhagen, starting from January. And in my free time, I enjoy swimming and visiting museums.
Cool. Thanks, Tamara. Last but not least, Marlot, could you introduce yourself, please?
Of course. Well, my name is Marlot Bremmer. I recently graduated the Master BPS. I also first started with the Bachelor Biopharmaceutical Sciences here in Leiden. Just like Tamara, actually, I also did my first internship at Systems Pharmacology and Pharmacy at Quantitative Pharmacology. And in my second year, I was quite in doubt what I wanted to do, if I wanted to continue research or do something else. So I did the courses on Science, Communication and Society, but decided later on I want to do the research specialization. And therefore I continued with my second internship at the LEMC in immunology, and then specifically tumor immunology. And in my free time, I really like hiking, preferably on holiday. So I really love traveling, baking, cooking, all sorts of things.
Cool, thank you, Marlot. All sportive people. Miranda, there was a general explanation video about the program, and most of the viewers already watched that. Could you highlight some specifics of that video of your program, what you think is important for maybe next students?
Yeah, sure. Well, here is perhaps a bit of a complicated slide, but that actually shows our program in one view. And well, it's good to be aware at Biopharmaceutical Sciences, we really train students to become the drug researchers of the future. And we do that, as indicated, well, I introduced myself, we do that in our institute, the Leiden Academic Center for Drug Research. So that has a major part in our program, and our institutes, well, we are all from the same division currently, but it's indicated I started at another division. That's a division of biotherapeutics. So we have that division. We have so the division System Pharmacology and Pharmacy. We have the Drug Discovery and Safety, and then we have a fourth one, and it's a center. It's not a division, so it's a bit more across the institute, and that's the center which we call Metabolomics and Analytics Center, and you can also do research there. And these divisions actually house the different research projects, which are a major component of our program. And that's what you see here on the slide. You see the first year of our master program projected. And then you see research project 1, which is provided by the LECDR, is actually 47 EC of the total amount of 60 EC of the first year. And that's the research project, what the students do at the divisions in our institutes. And well, after they rather quickly start with these research projects, but they do that after following an introduction course of 6 credits. And in that introduction course, they, amongst others, they get introduced to the institute, but they also learn how to write a proposal, for example, for the research that they are actually gonna do during their research project 1. In addition, on the right-hand side, you see that students are also trained in advanced academic skills and career orientation. So that's not content-driven, but really skills-driven, and actually also get these students already their mindsets towards their career. What do they eventually want to become? Okay, drug research, that's of course a general component, but in drug research you can go in a lot of different directions. So that's why we want them to think about that. And that's what we also start early on in the program. Also in its first year you need to follow a mandatory lecture series, but that lecture series is a lot of different lecture series where you can choose from. So that's all up to the students. So that's the first year. In the second year, which you see on the bottom half, is actually the part where students start to specialize. So you get a basic fundament of thorough research training, and then you can specialize further into research. You can do business studies, you can do science, communication, and society, which you followed, and you basically probed your interest in it. And well, if you want to become a teacher, you can do the education specialization. And then we have one other one, and it's industrial pharmacy. It's not on this slide because it's a very small one. Actually, only 2 students are allowed to follow this specialization. Of course, this is a lot of information on this slide. I really recommend, if you haven't done so yet, to really look at the full video. But also, when you come to our program, you get different information sessions in which there is explained more about these different specializations. If you look in general, you see all these specializations. They have a courses component, and they have a big part which is actually composed on doing internships or doing research projects. So I think this is a bit of a general overview. Here you see on this slide, you see it a bit differently presented. So you see the general part, which is the first year, and then the specialization part, in which you see the different types of specializations. And we see the majority of the students actually, and that's why it's a big round presented. The majority of the students choose the research specialization, and then business studies, and the other 3 are really small programs. But it's nice to know with the option to specialize and in where you're interested in, you can follow basically your own interest coupled to doing drug research. So I think that gives a bit of a general overview.
Thank you, Miranda. So this is a lot about our program. What does our program specialize in contrast to other programs in the country, or what does it make it special?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. And one thing I really have to emphasize, and I think it must be clear, we are really a true research program. What I showed in the previous slide, the majority of the first year is actually doing research. And students follow a major research project, and if they specialize in the research direction, they also follow another minor research project. That minor research project is no longer necessary that you do that inside the LCDR. You can go outside. You went to the LUMC, and you hope to go to the University of Copenhagen. So there are a lot of possibilities to do your second research projects somewhere else, and we think it's really, really good that students have that option. But Central is really had these big projects and on-the-job training that the students get. We also see that in alumni surveys. Actually, in alumni surveys, it's really put forward that it's these research projects which really help the students or the graduates, I must say, help them on the job markets. That's where they learn the most, and not from sitting and following lecture series, but really doing the research yourself. So I hope you agree. Then is of course the question when you compare it to similar programs, because there are similar programs where you also have these options and are very much research minded. And what you then really see what discriminates it is that it's had a research. In our case, in our program, it's the research is performed at the LSCDR for the first project, and then you see a lot of the expertise actually in the institute is coupled to the research that is being done in the institutes. So if you're looking and comparing different programs, you really should look at the research institutes behind those programs, because that's where the expert lecturers are and where the research is taking place. And that's also where you see the discrimination. So in our program, you have the broad options. We are a broad institute with really totally different types of research. It's from computational research to PKPD modeling in patients, but also with respect to biotherapeutic studies on atherosclerotic lesion development and target finding. So it's really a very broad possibilities at our institutes. Then, of course, other programs, you can have a look at drug discovery sciences, for example, in Amsterdam. That's more analytically chemistry oriented. You have drug innovation in Utrecht, medical and pharmaceutical drug innovation in Groningen, and these latter two are more biomedically oriented. Then what else discriminates it? I think the nice thing of our program is also that students can either choose to really specialize in one specific area. So if you think of biotherapeutics for solving cardiovascular disease, students can specialize in that direction. But you can also choose something totally different. Do PKPD modeling and look at the synthesis of new drugs, for example. So it's very, very broad, and they have a lot of options to choose, and that's why also the advanced academic skills and career orientation is an important one.
Interesting. Thank you, Miranda. Broad research possibilities large basis on research. Tamara, current student of the program, were those also the reason for you to choose this program at Leiden University?
Yes, so as I mentioned, I also did my bachelor in Bio-Pharmaceutical Sciences, and during the bachelor I experienced a type of research direction that I really enjoyed, namely the computational research, which you also already mentioned. And I found this really interesting, and I knew that it would be possible to also continue with this during the master, so that's why I decided to come back for the master as well.
Cool. And Marlon, you as a graduate of this program?
Yeah, I mostly chose it because it's so broad. When I finished the bachelor, I really liked the way the education worked at the Leiden University, and I didn't exactly know which I wanted to specialize in, so I thought, well, I wanted to do the master because there's so many options and you can find out during the masters what you want to specialize in. So for me personally, I'm very interested in immunology, and there are so many options and so many different divisions you can do some sort of immunological research, which is great.
Cool. Oh, that's interesting. Tamara, as a current student now in this program, can you tell me something more about the program, your experiences? Are you doing something interesting, for example, a research project or something?
Yeah, so what I find really interesting about this study is that it really allows you to shape your own program. You can really choose a lot of different directions, like you already mentioned, regarding courses that you follow, but also the projects that you choose to do. I personally really enjoyed my first research project on the computational modeling because I was able to build a model from the ground up and thereby really enhance my programming and modeling skills, which is something I personally find really interesting.
Cool.
So yeah.
Modeling skills, interesting. And Marlon, can you share some of your experiences as a student in this program?
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed the entire experience, not only during the program itself, but also student life outside of it, but also really a great point of this program are also the study advisors, because they really give great advice and are really there for you when you have a problem. So that's a positive note during the program, because I also know from other people from other masters that that's a little different sometimes. So that's really a plus for this program.
Interesting, cool. These are all the fun facts of the program, all the positive aspects, but as everybody knows who's been a student, studying you can face some challenges during your study program. Tamara, do you have anything that really challenged you during this program? Some topics you found very difficult?
Yeah, that ties back a bit to my previous comment, because you can really shape your own program, but that also comes with some challenges, because you have to think about what you want to learn and what skills you want to gain, and also you have to figure out where you want to do this. And this comes with challenges like starting on time, with deciding what you want to do and contacting people where you can do such projects.
Yeah. So a lot of flexibility means also a lot of responsibility to take, and makes it maybe even more difficult if you have a lot of options to choose from.
Yes, exactly.
Miranda, as a program director, what do you see in students which might challenge them during the study program for our prospective students?
Yeah, well, I think you addressed an important point, that you need to plan a lot yourself, because there is so much freedom. But another point that we see students struggling with, and that has more to do with the background. So a lot of our students are from the bachelor program Bio-Pharmaceutical Sciences, so they do get the proper research training, so they can very easily start with these research projects in the first year. As indicated, we only have a 6 EC introduction course, so there's hardly any time to really train students how to do research. So they come to us and they almost immediately need to start with doing true research. Yeah, you work in a research group in the frontiers of science, and you have to directly be able to do that. And some students you really see struggling with that. Therefore, also with admission from other programs, we really have a very careful look how it compares to the program of Bio-Pharmaceutical Sciences, because we want our students that come in to be successful in the program, and to be successful they simply need to have sufficient hands-on experience in doing innovative drug research. And sometimes there is it's a bit of a discrepancy what students think of innovative drug research, and sometimes for us it's difficult to really very well comprehend what they have done at another program. But this is something which is really important to look for the students. If you're now following a bachelor program and you want to do our program and you didn't do Bio-Pharmaceutical Sciences here in Leiden, you make sure that you really have a research project in innovative drug research, so at the cutting edge of where the research field currently is.
Good tips, Miranda. Struggles aside, if you've received your master's diploma for this study program successfully, what are some possibilities you can do? Maybe Marlon, you can add as a graduate from this program.
Yes, well, I do have to say, when I started working, I started doing something completely different from drug development. So I started as a personnel planner in childcare. But even with those things, you can use this master, because just analytical skills, problem-solving capacity, critical thinking you need in every job. So that's really nice. And what I noticed in that job, that was only temporarily, I really missed drug development. So luckily it was temporarily. So now I'm looking for a new job again. And luckily I also got approached by someone from Novartis on LinkedIn for a customer engagement manager. So I'm trying to go back to the drugs again, which I really like. And there are plenty of opportunities to go work in the pharmaceutical industry or research or you name it.
Cool. So you can even get a career in the child planning industry.
Definitely.
Miranda, can you add what are kind of job opportunities out there for master's students of this program?
Yeah, well, we are a research program, so and quite some students continue where we train them for, and they continue with a PhD in the drug research area, and most of the time at academic institutions. And I think it's nice to mention, we still have this slide on whichever specialization you do. Because of the thorough training that we give in the first year in doing research, every graduate can actually do a PhD. So it's free to basically do an education specialization or science and communication specialization, and still decide, okay, I first want to do a PhD and then continue perhaps in another area. So it's good to be aware of that. The specialization that you choose does not affect what you, in that respect, can do in the end. So that's good to know. Furthermore, a lot of students actually end up in the pharmaceutical industry, either in research, but there are also a lot of other opportunities to do in the pharmaceutical industry. So that's where they're trained eventually for. So a lot of options, and I think nice to mention, well, you find another solution in the meantime, but still a lot of students very rapidly find a nice position which is related to the program. We're here in our program at an excellent location, the Leiden Bioscience Park. The Leiden Bioscience Park last year launched their human capital agenda, and it's growing so fast with a lot of life science and health companies, and they're looking for enormous amounts of personnel. So that's, the opportunities are really good.
A lot of possibilities and opportunities. That's fun to hear. Thank you about that. Let's see if we've got any questions planned for us today. Just a small reminder that you can ask all your questions you'd like by using this chat box function at the side of the screen. And hopefully just a question for our graduate student, Marlot, our current student, Tamara, or the program director, Miranda. I'm sure they can help you with all kinds of questions out there. And we already got a question in here today, a question by Shania van Meurs. Do you have to choose a specialization upon registration for the master? Could you answer that, Miranda?
Yes, sure, I can answer that. You don't have to choose your specialization beforehand. It might perhaps be a bit confusing that we couple the specialization names are currently coupled to the research directions that you can do in the first year. So that's something that you choose, but whether you do eventually continue in the second year in research or science communication society, business studies, or industrial pharmacy, that's actually something that you decide during the first year. So you get a lot of information sessions still during that first year, and then you can decide where you eventually want to do your second year. Only you need to choose between, at this stage, between biotherapeutics and system biomedicine and pharmacy and drug discovery and safety. So that's more, you sort of indicate where your interests are with respect to research.
Interesting, thank you, Miranda. Maybe a question for our current student here today, Tamara. Question by Margarita Kakava. Is it possible for students to work during their master program? I can imagine it's a quite difficult and heavy workload in the program.
Yes, so the internships, especially the first year, you have quite long days, and it's just a 40-hour work week. So it's difficult to combine a job with it. It is possible, for example, on the weekend, but it's quite a very intensive master program regarding hours.
Do you work next to your study programs, Tamara?
I have some, shorter period things where I work as a student assistant, for example, but
And you, Marlot, did you work next to your study?
I didn't, because I really wanted to focus on my master's. I do know some people who had some part-time jobs beside it, but that was on the weekends or really the evening hours that outside of your internship you could go.
Some extra time.
It's good to be aware. It's like starting with a job.
Yeah.
In the master, you are prepared for starting a job, and we say that during the research project, you're simply working 40 hours a week. And so that's, well, I can't imagine doing another job next to that.
Difficult workload, yeah. That's going to be long weeks then, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next question by Vivian Schepers. Maybe for you, Marlotte, as a graduate. What is exactly the difference between biopharmaceutical science program and the biomedical sciences? And why do you recommend the biopharmaceutical sciences master, if you do?
I would really recommend it. I think the main difference, somebody said this to me, because I was also in doubt at the beginning of my bachelor, and somebody said to me, biomedical sciences is more figuring out the disease, and biopharmaceutical is more figuring out the solution to the disease. I don't know if Miranda agrees with that answer, but for me that really worked. And this is really personal. I like the solution more than the disease itself. So I really wanted to focus on the solution, therefore biopharmaceutical sciences.
Do you agree with that, Miranda?
Oh, yeah, it's nicely explained, I think. But another thing is, if you want to know, these are both very good programs. So I also can say biomedical sciences here in Leiden is also a very good program. And if you look at the actual components of the program, you also see that they have 2 research projects. So in that respect, they're rather similar. You also need to write a proposal. You have to do a literature study. So they look very similar. Where the difference is, and as already indicated earlier, is really the type of research that they're doing. What type of research is being done at the Leiden University Medical Center? Because a lot of students start their first projects or the second project to do that there. And also the courses, so the special, they call it Frontiers of Science courses, we call it Caput Lecture Series, but they are directly coupled to the research being done at the LUMC, or in our case, the Leiden Academic Center for Drug Research. And we allow our students to follow those courses at the LUMC as well, but still, the chances of getting in are slimmer. So if you really are sure you want to follow a lot of Frontiers of Science courses during your program, I would recommend biomedical sciences. Whereas if you want to follow a lot of our courses, we already have from modeling, chemistry, atherosclerotic lesion development, drug safety. If you're interested in that sort of courses, I would say our program is the best fit. So.
Nice to hear it's possible to take some courses from different programs. Let's move on to the next question by Mateusz Pulukowski. This program, Biopharmaceutical Sciences, does it lean more towards biology? Maybe you can answer that, Miranda. Or towards to chemistry with regards to coursework? So if you're a student that is very mathematically oriented, do you struggle, or do you struggle less when you're more a biology oriented person?
These are, well, as indicated, we're a very broad program, so I can't say we lean more towards the biology or the chemistry. It's really both ends are available. With respect to the computational part, I think there are a lot of options, and the research is really developing in that direction. So there are becoming more and more options, and I think it's also an essential skill for the drug researchers of the future to master the computational techniques. So that's, I would say try to get experience in that, preferably already during your bachelor program, because then you can step into the research in our program.
And if I may elaborate a little bit on that, when you talk about computational techniques, you're talking about modelings, simulations, things like that?
Yeah, it's really broad, from looking at the interaction between a target receptor and a new compound to pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic modeling, modeling of disease. That's also being done to understand the disease, because when you understand the disease and, for example, the migration of immune cells, then you can actually start interfering with it and think of clever ideas how to intervene and actually solve a certain disease and really treat it.
Interesting. Yeah. Let's go to the next question for you, Tamara. Anastasia Tsoslaki is asking, how flexible is it to do your research at a different department? Maybe you're doing your research at a different department or planning on doing so?
So the first research project, that has to be at the LSCDR, as we discussed. But for your second research project, for the research specialization, it's very easy to go to other places. You can go to other universities in the Netherlands or abroad, but you can also do it at a company. So there the possibilities are much bigger.
Cool. Marlotte, can you share your experiences in that?
Yeah, I actually the first internship is of course within the LSADR, but I really looked for a different place to do my second internship in different department. And actually for me, it was unfortunate that it was in Leiden, but I still had the end of COVID. I really wanted to go to a different city to experience a different culture. So the possibilities are endless for your second internship.
Nice, very good to hear.
I think perhaps good to add for the first research projects, and we're a popular program. I must say I'm very proud of that. But we are a research institute of a fixed size. So we ask students actually to indicate where their interest lies with respect to the research of our principal investigators. So you can basically indicate interest 1, 2, and 3. And we do our best to actually match the students to the research. But if one group is extremely popular, then sometimes we have to decide to actually place a student with another research group, which we think is still a good match. But you don't have, you can't choose for 100% what you actually want to do in the first year. But we guarantee really good research projects. But there's less flexibility in the first year, but in the second year, then you can do everything what you want.
Let's stick to you, Miranda. A technical question for the program director. Is the Master Bio-Pharmaceutical Sciences a numerous fixes study, so a limited capacity study program?
No, the answer is no.
Easy?
Yeah.
So you're just allowed to register for the program and not have a selection for the program. Interesting. Maybe a question in the meantime. Tamara, what are your plans after this program? Do you already have an idea what you're going to do after graduating?
So it's a difficult question, but I have been thinking about it. I think right now my biggest interest still lies in research. So I would preferably do a PhD in a research topic that I really like.
Cool, interesting. Thank you, Tamara. A question for Marlotte, maybe. From Dagga Billen. What type of innovative research background are you looking for as a student? So what kind of students are we looking for the incoming recent students? What do you think makes it important for students to have when they follow this program?
Really a deep interest in drug development research. That's something that is really required for this master. But I think actually Miranda is able to answer his question more properly than I am. But
it really depends on the area, of course, because we're a broad institute. So what I would very much recommend is to go to the website of our institute, so www.lscdr.nl, I think, because if you go to the website, you see our different principal investigators that all run their research groups, and you find links to their research papers, and you get a good impression what type of research they're currently doing, and that's what we request you to do. So it's really the most innovative techniques that are currently available in the specific area. So that's extremely broad, so a bit difficult for me to explain right now. But if you go to our website, you can really get a good impression.
Thank you, Miranda. Also, another technical question. Maybe let me start off with asking Marlotte or Tamara. Did you start your study program in September or February?
September.
Both in September. Miranda, it's also possible to start in February, right? What are the differences between starting in September or February?
Yeah, actually, as of this year, there's a small change.
Yeah?
But you can start in September and February, but you can only start with your research project 1 in October. But when you start in September, you do the introduction course, and then you start in October with your research project 1. In the past, students could also start with a research project 1 in February, but that's no longer possible because we really saw students struggling. There was a very small group starting in February, and they didn't really fit into the research group because they came later than the other students. And we really, both from the lecturer sides as well as from the student side, we really got to learn that it's just not a proper way to do this. So that's why we decided start in September. The ideal situation is starting with the program in September and your research project 1 then in October. You're allowed to start, but if you're from another program than the Bachelor Biopharmaceutical Sciences, I would very much recommend not to start in February. Students that are familiar with how we work at Leiden University, you can request to do your optional courses, which are in the research specialization. You can request the Board of Examiners to do that in the period from February to July, and then you can already start, or you can start with, for example, business studies courses, which start in February, and then continue in September with the introduction course and the research project 1. But again, coming from another program and not being familiar in Leiden how things work, I very much do not recommend to do that, but it is possible.
So a small advice just to start in September, definitely if you're
Strong
from a different, strong advice, definitely from another program. Also another technical question for you, Miranda. Is there a specific number of international students that are taken into the program on a yearly basis?
The question is, you can interpret it a bit double. There's no limit on international, the numbers of international students. What we see is that the numbers are rather low, and that's because we have a rather stringent screening in that you have done this, it's a 16 EC research project at the level 400, have written a thesis in English, and that it should really be in the area of this innovative drug research. So we see a lot of students from, for example, pharmacy programs from abroad, and that type of research often doesn't fit the research properly, and
why is that? Is it less chemistry oriented? Is it something like that?
No, it's more what you would really do, type of research what you would do in a pharmacy, and that's really at a different level than what you do when you're in the lab or when you're computationally modeling and finding new ways to solve a disease instead of looking at the a lot of it, the existing drugs, how patients use the drugs, how adherence patients are to drugs, that sort of things. That is really a totally different ballpark of research.
And if people watching right now have questions about whether they're applicable to the program, where can they go to?
Go to our website. There's a lot of information on the Leiden University website, and there you also find the admission requirements. If you have questions, you can always write an email to admissionbps@lecdr.leidenuniv.nl. It's really long, but you find it on the website, so very much recommend to go there.
Thanks. Does the application procedure, maybe you as a student here, Tamara, does the application procedure for the program require an interview or something like that, or other requirements?
Well, I didn't experience that because I already did the Bachelor Bio-Pharmaceutical Sciences, so my admission was kind of guaranteed. So I didn't have to do an interview. I don't think that's part of the admission, right?
Miranda, is there a situation possible where interview is necessary for application?
Yeah, it's not standard. So the standards. So the admission committee actually looks at the documents when you apply for the program. Often we ask for more documents and more information to really be able to properly judge the level of the prior education from people from other programs than the bachelor program Bio-Pharmaceutical Sciences. And then if we still have doubts, an interview might be part of it, but it doesn't happen often.
Interesting. One more question by Adrina Vekis. In addition to drug development, are there subjects that explain medical devices and these types of topics? So medical devices. Maybe you, Marlot, did you experience those kind of information during your program?
I personally haven't seen any subjects related to medical devices, but
that's a little bit more maybe another program, right?
I would recommend, if you're interested in that, the biomedical sciences program. Research at the UNMC is more fit to that.
Yeah, that's one of the differences in the program between biopharmaceutical sciences and biomedical sciences, right? Yeah. Next question by Shivana Hemsing. Is the drug discovery and safety track also divided in subcategories like organic chemistry, molecular pharmacology, that you have to choose one? Miranda, could you answer that?
No, it's really coupled to the research project that you do in your first year, and then it contains the different aspects. So you could either do a research project in organic chemistry, or you could do one in molecular pharmacology, or in drug safety. Yeah, it's that broad. With respect to the courses, it's really up to you which course you want to choose, where you're interested in.
So you don't have to make more difficult decisions on top of the already difficult ones where to specialize in. Let's see, we've got a next question by Kadia Alabdai. Hello, which options other than the research options are there? And which masters can I do after the bachelor PS, but not MTS? So after the bachelor biopharmaceutical sciences, I believe, what kind of other masters can you do? This is more a question for the bachelor program, but maybe in your experience.
Yeah, the world is open to you, and I assume that if you're a pharmaceutical, I don't know whether you're biopharmaceutical sciences or from another program. At least if you're students from the biopharmaceutical sciences bachelor, then we provide, I think, in February another information session on what type of programs you can do. There are a lot of options. I really, if you want to do research, and I had a master program, Biopharmaceutical Science is a good one, but if you really have, for example, at the LUMC, they also have a nice program that's called Vitality and Aging. That's a 1-year master program, and the whole program is arranged around aging and how you can help elderly people and in all kinds of aspects. So that's nice. If you're more interested in the business aspects, but you don't like research, I would recommend look at the programs in Rotterdam, for example. There are nice options there. Basically, I would say go to, like you're currently here, also go to the other information sessions of other universities. You have a lot of options.
The world is open for you.
Yeah.
Let's see, do we have some time still for some more questions? Perfect, so don't hesitate to ask all the questions you want on the side of your screen. Next question by Dionne Blok. If you're interested in cancer research, understanding the disease, but also targeted discovery, would you recommend a Master Biomedical Sciences or Biopharmaceutical Science? Marlotte, do you maybe know from experienced people?
Well, I actually did in my second internship target discovery basically for cancer. So you can do both. You can do it within our program, but you can also do within biomedical sciences. So I think this is really difficult. It's just what you prefer yourself, I think.
It's the different direction you already mentioned.
Yeah.
Are you more interested in the drug discovery side or really the disease side? That's probably correct, right, Miranda?
On the one hand, yes, but on the other hand, because it's so open and free to choose, I would say you can do it in either way. For example, stem cell research. In our institute, we do a lot of research on stem cells, but the same is at the LUMC, and they simply work together. I think I had a lot of the new drugs, you think of the biotherapeutics and the biopharmaceuticals, we're really coming close together, and I think basically getting it from the research from the different angles, I think that's what really helps to get you to the next level. And eventually we all want to treat patients. Both at the hospital they want to treat patients, and we want to design the new drugs to treat the patients. So you look at different angles, but together actually we manage to do the important steps. So it's the collaboration aspect is really important, and I can imagine that you can do it at both places to a similar high level of degree. Also, I must say, I just came back from a meeting with the program director of biomedical sciences, and we do a lot of things together, actually.
Nice to hear that there's such good collaboration between the programs, definitely, just as normal research goes. So, technical question by Gianna Schaar. You mentioned, Miranda, that there are two spots for the industrial pharmacy track. What are the requirements, and can you give some more information on that?
So it's good to mention it's a Dutch track, so you need to speak Dutch. You need to be a native Dutch speaker, and it's because you're trained actually for quality control in at Dutch companies. So you really need to understand Dutch properly, be able to read Dutch law things, that kind of things. If you think of the requirements, so you get more information during the first year of a program, and then you can actually indicate, well, I'm interested. You write a motivation letter, and then you have an interview in front of a committee, and the committee actually looks at basically you have qualified persons working in the pharmaceutical industry. And these qualified persons, they have to be really critical, but they have to also be work very neatly, really document things properly. You need to be able to make difficult decisions. If you, for example, you find something wrong in one minor aspect of the production process of a drug, and then you need to make the decision that the drug is not going to the markets, and it can cost a lot of money. So you really also need to be able to make that type of decision, and that's what we probe during the interview.
Interesting, thanks. Also a question for you, Miranda, from Constantina Caragiotto. If you start in February with your program, does that mean you cannot do any research orientation class until next September? Was that what you mentioned?
I don't fully understand what they mean with research orientation class. You can, so with the class, I think of our Caput lecture series. Officially, you need to ask permission with the Board of Examiners, but then you can follow these courses because you have a good argument why you need to follow these courses now instead of after or during your research project one. And in these courses, because they are so directly coupled to the research being done at LSCDR, you can actually orient yourself very well. I must say, these courses are scheduled throughout the year. So there are a few courses that you could follow in a period from February to July. So you can't get the full range of what's being done at LSCDR, but you can get an idea.
Interesting, thank you. This was the last question of this wonderful session we had today. I would like to thank my guests here today, Tamara, Miranda, and Marlotte, for being here and giving answers to the questions and sharing their experiences in the study program. I want to thank you especially as viewers of this session. We hope this has helped you in deciding your future academic path after your bachelor program. We hope we've answered all your questions. If that's not the case, please feel free to ask all your questions you want via the website of our master's program. You can send our study advisor questions or other people questions. A few email addresses were already mentioned during this presentation, but you can find all the email addresses on the screen right here, but also on our website. Thank you very much again for listening here today. Good luck with all your choices and good luck with finding something that fits you and fits your program. See you soon. Bye-bye.